All stand, please. Please be seated.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Reid.
I call Melissa Barrett.
Just remain standing. Will you take an oath or choose to make an affirmation?
I'll take an oath, thank you.
Do you swear by Almighty God that the evidence you shall give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Please say, I swear.
I swear.
Yes, thanks, Miss Barrett. Make yourself comfortable there. There's a fresh water if you need it, and there are tissues there which I'm sure you won't need.
No. Oh, runny nose.
All right, thanks,
Thank you.
Mr. Reid, when you're ready.
Yes. Would you like to pour yourself a water before you start?
Oh, well, if that's all right.
Thank you. Ms. Barrett, your name is Melissa Jane Barrett,
That's correct.
and the Jane is spelled Jayne.
Yes, it is.
Thank you. And you were born on the 31st of October 1970,
That's correct.
and you're the owner of 242 Whitehill Road,
Correct.
and that's a 7.98 hectare rural property comprising a single-storey north-facing colorbond clad one-bedroom residence of approximately 90 square metres and the surrounding land.
That's correct.
And your occupation is?
I'm a project officer.
Thank you.
Government?
With the government, thank you. You've owned this property since September 2010.
That's correct.
Thank you. Ms. Barrett, we've had played to us videos of interviews of yourself, with yourself at the Sorrel Police Station on the 5th of January and on your property on the 7th of January.
That's correct.
Have you watched those videos?
Yes, I have.
How often? How many times, I should say?
I've watched them both twice now, and one was on Monday.
The last time
Monday.
was Monday.
Yes.
And is what you said in those interviews true?
Correct. It was true.
Thank you. Could document 101 photo 0007 be brought up, please? Now, you recognise that to be a photograph of your land.
That's correct.
There's reference in your interviews to the old stump. Do you recognise the old stump in those photographs?
Yes, I do.
Now, Mr. Tamponi, who's opposite you, has a cursor that he'll move on the screen, and if you can direct him to bring it down to the left, whatever you need, we'll get there.
It's number 7?
It's where the number 7 is.
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
Mr. Tamponi, could you draw a circle around that? And mark that A. Thank you. Now, to the right of that, there's a blackened, what appears to be a blackened piece of timber. Do you describe that as part of the old stump or not?
No, I don't.
Right. Both of those appear to be burnt. Have you, and your interview suggested that there'd been a big bonfire in September. Where was that September bonfire?
On A.
Where A is?
Yes.
Have you ever had bonfires in the, what I'm about to call B, because I'll ask Mr Tempone to put a B next to that blackened piece of timber. Have you ever had bonfires in that stump?
No, not in September.
No.
May have a year or two before, but no. It's mainly just the A that we do the burning off on.
Yes. Well, can I go back to B, please? From the
Yes.
time that you owned the property in September 10 until the end of 2012, did you have any fires in that stump?
I can't remember.
Right, thank you. Now, finally, in relation to that, what was the state of those two stumps when you acquired the property?
I can't remember.
Well, were they trees?
No, they weren't trees.
No.
They were just stump.
They were just stumps.
Yep.
And had they been burnt at that stage or not?
Not that I can recall.
Right. So the first burning of them was done by you or others with you. Is that your evidence?
That's correct.
Yes, I tend to that. Now, I want to take you to the 28th of December, and Hamish and his son Lockie were at your property. That's correct?
What date was that?
28th of December 2012.
That's correct.
Right. And there was a campfire held on the property.
That's correct.
That's correct. Who lit it?
Hamish lit it.
Thank you. Did you see him light it?
I handed him the lighter.
Right, thank you. And what, if we go back to Mr Tempone still, here we go. If we go back to that photograph, maybe if we go to 0008, please. Yes, now by reference to 0008, that shows the old stump, correct?
Correct.
Yes. By reference to that, where was the campfire set?
Where was the campfire set?
Yes.
It was set inside the pit. I never referred it to a stump, I referred it to as a pit.
Right. Can you direct Mr Tempone to either put a cross or a circle to the point or the area in which it was set, please?
It looks slightly different to what it was, but it would be where that, I suppose, that rock is in that dirt area. You can go down, keep on going down, come across a bit.
Cross to the left or the
to
right?
the left,
To the left.
please. Yeah, so it was within that area,
Right. Now,
as best as to my knowledge.
yes. And can you get Mr Tempone to draw a circle or an oval, if necessary, whatever shape's necessary to depict the area in which that campfire was set?
It's a bit hard from here, but if you can go up a little bit more and start there and just sort of do a circle around that rock. That's it. Well, not that far, but
Not that
not
far?
far out. Yeah.
No, Mr
It's just-
Tempone will correct it, so...
Yeah. So it was just in where that centred rock is.
Just a minute. Just... How's that?
Yep, that's about right.
Is the size about right?
Well, they were logs, so they were still within that. They were a bit longer rather than a circle, but it's within that area. It was
Within
only
that
small.
area. But a little bit bigger than that circle. Is that, as I'm understanding you?
That's correct. So it's just.
Try again, please, Mr.
Sorry,
Tempone.
it's just hard. So start there where that thing is, and go round and keep on going, keep on going, keep on going. Stop there, go down. Stop there, go across. Keep on going. Keep on going. and go, stop there, go up, and across. So if you can envisage logs.
Thank you. Yes, I tend to that. How long did that fire burn for?
It was for quite a few hours. There was only about 3 small logs on there, so about 3 hours, I think.
Yep. And it came time to go to bed?
Clean up, yeah, well, Lockie needed to go to bed.
Yep.
He was only 10 at the time.
So can you please tell the court what you did in relation to that fire?
In relation to that fire, I got buckets of water from my pool that was around the back of the property, and poured water on it. And Hamish also made sure there were no coals and, well, I can't really say with Hamish, but I definitely poured water in it on numerous occasions.
Yep. And did you form an opinion as to whether the fire was still going or out?
The fire was out.
Thank you. Now, the next morning, what did Lockie and Hamish do?
The next morning, they disappeared very early to go surfing.
Right. And while they were away, how was the weather?
It was very overcast. The night of the campfire, it was freezing cold. We had beanies on, jumpers on, even a fine mist. And in the morning, it was very overcast, cold, and it started to spit.
Right. Now, did you see something in the area of the stump that morning?
I thought I saw when the rain started, when it started to spit, a small bit of steam.
And
a wisp.
Can you point, please, to, we can use the same screenshot. Can you point, please, get Mr. Tempone to move his pointer to the point where you saw that wisp?
More towards this little section from where I was standing. It's hard to actually say where that wisp of steam was, but I saw it more at the top. If he can move his cursor uppity up, keep on going. It was sort of in just a slight and sort of in that vicinity, come over a bit, just sort of in there. It was the angle that I was on. It's very hard to point.
Right, we'll come to the angle in a moment. Can we just make that with the cross, please? Now, which angle where were you standing, and which
well, if I'm looking at that picture there, I was standing at the right of it, way over. Yep.
So you're standing to the right of the photographer?
That's correct.
Thank you. Now, you've said you saw a wisp. Can you describe with a little more clarity what you saw, or is it not possible?
It's a bit hard, but in the end, the only, I suppose, the explanation I could give, if a kettle is boiling and you just see a little bit of translucent steam, or if, for example, it's been a hot day and you have a shower and the ground steams a little bit from the heat of the hot day, it's sort of that.
Yep. Thank you. Did you see anything of that sort again that day?
No, I did not.
Right. And in the days that followed before the bushfire?
No, I did not.
Did you see any smoke at any time?
No, I did not.
Now, we've got Lockie and Hamish in the surf somewhere. Did they come home?
Yes, they came home mid-morning.
Yes.
And the tent was already getting damp because it was spitting, and he packed up the tent. Yep.
And Hamish took Lockie home?
That's correct.
And how was the weather in the following days at your property?
It was drizzly on and off. I live on top of a hill, so I get a lot more drizzle than other people. It was just and then it started to creep into the heat again coming into the following week.
Right. Now, Hamish stayed at your house until the 2nd of January, is that correct?
That's correct.
Right. And he left around lunchtime
That's
on the
correct.
2nd. And your next contact with him was a phone call on the morning of the 3rd.
That's correct.
Yes. Now, did you do anything to the stump between the time that you saw this wisp on the day after the campfire and the 3rd of January?
I always keep, I'm diligent. I always keep my eye on my property and anything. I constantly went over to make sure that it wasn't, burning or anything, which it wasn't. I tend to making sure my land's cleared and that, so no, there was no activity whatsoever. And there was no activity on the 3rd either.
Nothing on the 3rd?
Nothing on the 3rd coming from there.
All right. Well, now, let's go to the 3rd then. Sorry. Yes, that's still on the screen, but it has been tendered, Your Honour. Yes. So we'll come to the 3rd. A farrier came to look after Doug. We've heard about that. And he left. And you were, I'll try and put it politely, fiddling around, wondering what you were going to do.
That's right, it's a damn hot day.
Yeah, and you walked out onto your balcony and you saw something over to the east.
That's correct.
Right, now what did you see?
It was, because it was such a hot day, bright day, I could just see, it's very hard to explain, but it was so far in the distance and it was like a white light or spark. It was just like, say, if you had a bit of metal or a bit of glass there, and that's what I first saw.
Right, and what followed from that?
I did a double take, and then I realised that's moving, because it wasn't on the top of the property. It was coming up the hill, but I can't see down my hill because of where I stand. That I just saw it reach where it starts to come up my hill, and that's when I saw other flames, or just this white flickering going on, and that's when I ran for my life and knew that there was fire on my property.
Now, you've been using your hands during all of that.
Yeah,
that's fine, Ms. Barrett, but I just need to record for the transcript.
Yeah.
You were indicating moving towards yourself, so that's
from the distance,
yes.
When I actually looked out to the east, I had to look past the pit,
yes,
the camp, and to actually just see the flickering in amongst. I had gum trees there,
yes,
and that's when I saw it first flicker there, and then as my eyes darted, you could see little flickers elsewhere coming up the hill. There
Right,
was
now,
nothing on the
yes.
hill.
So up the hill, is that towards your house
That's
or
towards
away
my
from your
house.
house
So
or
that's,
across
say, the east coming towards the west,
Thank you.
directly in line
Right.
with my house.
Now, leaving aside calls to emergency services and just cutting to the chase of what you did in relation to that fire, you got some water and went down there, is that right?
That's correct.
Now-
I raced.
Right, well just a moment please. When you went down there, what is it that you saw?
When I went down
Yes,
there,
you took some water down, what
when I
did you
took
see?
in my watering can, I then, when I got to, before it to climb down my property, when I actually stood there and could see all the rest of my property, that was all on fire.
Right.
Going that way, it was dancing all over the place, coming up,
going to the north.
It was going to the north, it was coming up to the west, and that was what I was focusing on.
Right. Now, what did you do with the water?
I tried to put bits out because it was coming towards the house, and it was going around towards Doug's paddock.
Right. The first can of water that you had,
Yeah. I had bucket. What I can remember is that I had a bucket
Right.
and I had a watering can, and I found that I was with the bucket. It was useless.
yes, well, just the very first lot of water,
hmm
which bit of the fire did you put it on?
I put it on the first bit that I saw coming up, because that was
Coming
my
up
first
towards
threat.
the house?
Yes, correct.
Thank you. And you continued to go backwards and forwards to get more water?
I did.
Right. And what happened to the fire?
It just kept on burning
In what direction?
everywhere. Kept on coming up, crawling towards the house, and it was just beaming around the sides of the hill, still coming northwesterly to go around the front of the property and take the paddock out that
Right.
Doug was in.
That Doug was in.
Yeah.
Doug's paddock, yeah. Okay. Now, as a result of that, did you go down what we know as your steep driveway?
Yes, there was, but there was no point. It was everywhere. So my focus was just it was sporadically coming up in all different ways. So I was just running around trying to whatever was closest to the house. Just kept on trying to put that, because it was on both sides coming up. So it wasn't only on that east side directly in line with the house, but it also came up on the other side of the driveway towards. So I was just trying to run between everything with a nozzle.
Thank you. Well, when you were down in the steep driveway, a fire truck arrived?
Yes, in the end, it had got so close to I had to protect my horse and leave the rest.
But a fire truck arrived.
But a fire truck arrived,
Thank
and
you.
I met them down the bottom of the driveway.
Right. And they went up to 244 Whitehill Road, having spoken with you.
That's correct.
Right. And did you walk back up the steep driveway after they had gone up in the direction of 244?
I started to.
Yes.
Yep.
And while you were walking up there, what occurred?
As I was walking up, I knew a fire truck had turned up, and at the same time, Hamish and Lockie had driven up behind me and parked, and all I remember was the kids just running towards me, and as I looked up, I realised that the fire had crawled even further, and I just screamed out to the kids to get buckets, I think.
When you say you realised the fire had crawled even further, where were you when you realised that?
Halfway up the driveway.
Right.
Or as I was coming to the peak of the driveway.
Coming to the peak of the driveway.
Yeah.
And when you say it had crept even further up, where had it got to at that stage?
It had actually gone past I'm pretty sure it had gone halfway up, really. Well, the fire truck had parked and they'd got out and...
Yes. No, where had the fire got to? It had gone past what?
Oh, it had gone past the pit. It had gone past the pit a bit, I'm pretty sure. But it had crawled towards, because I've got a lot of dirt there, so it had crawled towards the house. It was still going towards the house.
Right.
So it hadn't been put out.
When you refer to the pit, do you see that on the screen in front of you?
Yes.
That's what
Number 7.
That's what you're
correct.
referring to.
That's correct, the pit. I call it the pit.
Yeah. And you said that Lockie and Hamish had arrived, but then you referred to kids. Was someone else with them?
No, there was just Lockie's little mate, Harrison.
Right. So, yes, there was someone else.
There was,
there,
yeah,
Harrison.
there,
Yes.
2 kids.
Right. Do you remember if the fireys used any water on the area around the pit?
What I can recollect is that when the kids were running at me, I know Hamish was walking over to the fire truck, I think, to speak with and I noticed someone had got out with a hose and was hosing that area down.
Which area?
Around and beyond the pit,
Thank you.
where it had travelled.
Thank you. Now, one further matter, please, Ms. Barrett. Do you recall that an excavation, well, that a man called Colin Thomas came to your property in the first half of 2014 and did some digging around what you referred to as the pit?
Yes, I do.
Right. And when he was finished, did you have a concern?
Oh, there was a hole in the ground.
Right. So what did you do in relation to that?
Well, the concern was I have little miniature ponies that roam around the property, and I wanted, for safety reasons, I wanted that hole filled in.
And who did you contact to have that done?
I contacted Shana from RACT, and I also spoke with Steve Knight, the lawyer.
Right. And was it filled in?
Yes, it was.
Yes, but please.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Reid. Mr. Armstrong.
Thank you, Your Honour. Ms Barrett, my name is Armstrong. I'm one of the barristers acting for the plaintiffs in this proceeding. Now, could I ask you firstly to turn your mind back to the police interview that my learned friend asked you about that was conducted at the Sorell Police Station on the 5th of January 2013. You attended that interview voluntarily, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
And the police cautioned you that the evidence that you gave in answer to their questions might be used against you?
Not that I can remember.
Okay, but you understood that this was a pretty serious investigation that the police were undertaking?
Yes, at the time, though, I didn't know that I was actually a
No, thank you, but
suspect.
you've already agreed in answer to Mr. Reid's
I was just trying to
questions
help. I thought with all the neighbours that what was going on.
and you were careful to tell the truth to the best of your
I
recollection.
told the
at time.
truth. That's correct.
Now, Mr. Reid asked you some questions about the bonfire that you had burning off rubbish over the, should we call it the pit? Is that the term?
Yep, the pit.
Use? So we've been calling it the stump, so forgive me if I...
No, everyone
the
calls it the stump, but
stump.
it's a pit.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Mr. Reid asked you some questions about the burning off bonfire that you had over the pit in about September 2014.
Yes.
Oh, sorry, 2012.
12, yes.
Was that the first time that you'd had a bonfire on the pit?
Probably the second or the third.
Okay, and you'd had, you told the police during the interview on the 5th of January that you'd had the experience on prior occasions before January 2013 of having bonfires over the pit and then needing to go back to the pit over the course of the following couple of days and pouring water onto the pit again and watching it bubble and sizzle. Do you recall that?
I don't recall saying bubble and sizzle and
Okay,
things,
do you-
but I recall saying to them, as always, this is in winter,
Mhm.
when it's raining and snowing, and so it might you just like all you do, you just keep your eye on it.
Yeah.
You make sure it's out, but you also keep your eye on it because just let it slowly burn because you've got wet leaves all sitting there that just don't burn. It's the middle of the winter.
Okay. And so putting to one side whether you remember saying that to the police, was it the case that in the years before 2013 when you'd had burning off bonfires in the pit, you'd needed to go back to the pit over the course of the next couple of days and put more water onto it to make sure it was out?
I was burning fires over my property in all different areas, so it wasn't just the pit.
Mhm.
So at that time, my brain was going 100 miles an hour while I was talking to the police. So looking back, I actually do a lot of burn-offs around my property,
Right.
small burn-offs, which I continually go back and check.
Okay, well,
So that's just one place.
understand, but you appreciate that I'm asking specifically about the fires that you'd had in the pit. And my question is, putting to one side whether you remember what you said to the police, as you sit here today, was it your recollection that when you'd had bonfires in the pit in the couple of years before 2013, you'd needed to go back to the pit over the course of the following couple of days, put more water onto it, and you'd noticed the water bubbling and sizzling?
Yes, because what I said in that police interview was correct. That breaking that down, that camp, well, the bonfires are done during winter or just in the times that you do the burn-offs. So you do leave them because it's rain and snow.
Yep. And in terms of your practices of burning off at the property, you were very aware that you were living in a fairly wooded bush block, significant fire risk in the area, and that's why you were careful to do your burning off during the winter and autumn months.
That's correct, and I maintain my property as well, not just burning off.
All right, thank you. Now, on the 28th of December, the events that Mr. Reid also asked you about, can I ask you to now turn your mind to the campfire that you've described and drawn on the screen for His Honour? You said in answer to Mr. Reid's questions that you handed Hamish the lighter to light the campfire. Do you recall that?
That's correct.
Now, do you recall as well, Ms. Barrett, that you queried with Mr. Robinson as to whether it was a good idea to light a campfire?
That's correct.
Yep. And do you recall what you said to him?
Yes, I do, and the reason why that was the case is that I couldn't be bothered.
Right.
I really couldn't be bothered. It was getting later on that night. We hadn't had tea, and in the end, it was just a matter of fact that I couldn't be bothered having one. But in the end, little Lockie wanted so we could have our tea, our Milos, hot chocolates before he went to bed.
Right. So did you say anything to Mr. Robinson to the effect that it was not a good idea to light a campfire on the property?
No, the only reason I'd say it's not a good idea. The reason it being is that I just couldn't be bothered. It was cold. There was no other reason that I would say that other than I just couldn't be bothered at that time of night having a campfire.
All right. And did you say, do you recall telling the police that you warned Mr. Robinson that it was not a good idea to light a campfire, but males can be hard to tell?
I don't know where you're alluding to, but in the end I agreed to because Lockie wanted it.
All right. Just excuse me one moment.
The precise words you...
Sorry, I'm just not understanding what you're meaning by that.
The precise words you just put were actually put to Mr. Butler.
Yes, I'm sorry, Your Honour, I've just been corrected on that. So I'll come to that in a moment. Ms. Barrett, and I apologise for misleading you. Now, you said that the fire burned for about 3 hours and you'd put a few logs on it. Then in terms of putting out the fire, the first thing that anybody did to put out the fire was that Mr. Robinson kicked some soil over it. Is that right?
Yep, like you go around a fire and kick to make sure there's no coals around the outsides and kick a bit soil in. Yep.
Right. And did you watch him do that?
As I was doing my water, I was concentrating more on my water.
Okay, so I take it Mr. Robinson started to kick soil over the fire.
Yep.
And you then went to find one of the buckets to get some water from the swimming pool. Is that right?
Yep, a couple of goes, yep.
Yep. And you filled about 2 buckets worth and about half full each time.
Well, it's a bucket that's not a normal size bucket, so it depends on what you call.
All right.
So if you had the right size of the bucket, I'd be able to tell you.
All right. Could you indicate with your hands, for His Honour, about how tall the bucket was for
Yep.
starters?
It's probably about that.
So
It was a more wider one than a taller one, but in the end it becomes a bucket.
All right.
Yep.
So you've just indicated with your hands it was about, what, 20 centimetres?
Oh, look, please don't go by my hands. My hands go all over the place. All I can say is that it was a normal-sized bucket, but just as different, more wider than taller.
Okay, so, and about half full on each occasion.
No, I filled the bucket, but it looks like it's a half a bucket when it's not. It's the bucket itself. So if you've got a picture there, that'd be great.
Well, I don't think we have a picture, Ms. Barrett, but perhaps we'll try and find one while we're at it. Now, the following morning you said that Mr. Robinson and Lockie got up before you did and then they went surfing, is that right?
That's correct.
And you didn't see Mr. Robinson do anything by way of checking the fire the next morning, did you?
No, couldn't answer that.
Okay, and you didn't do anything yourself the next morning to check the pit?
Yeah, I got up, did my normal, dealing with animals, checking everything like I do.
Right, and what did you do in relation to the pit?
Saw that it was not hot. I went over and checked it.
What did you do to check it?
I checked it, I looked at it, as I said, I'd put it out the night before, and it still looked damp.
Right, okay. And so you just had a look and then
Yep.
moved on to deal with the rest of your chores of the morning.
That's right.
Right. Now, if I understood you correctly, you said to Mr. Reid that it was on that following morning, the 29th, that there was some spitting rain. Is that right?
Oh, it started to rain, yes.
Okay, all right. Now, we've got the weather records, Ms. Barrett, for the area around your property. If the court operator could please bring up document 72. And within document 72, could we please go to court book page 0008 and turn it on its side, Mr. Temponi, so that we can see it properly aligned. Now, what we have there, Ms. Barrett, is the daily rainfall observations from various weather recording stations around the Fawcett area.
Yep, you're saying the Fawcett area. So where's Fawcett? You've got Orielton, Sorrel, Bottle Hill and Dodgers Ferry.
That's right. There's none at Fawcett itself.
Oh, okay.
So you see that according to the weather stations at each of those 4 locations on the 29th of December, there was no rainfall recorded at all. Now, would you concede that it's possible that you're mistaken as to the date on which it rained after the
No,
campfire?
I'm not. If you had Fawcett there, then we could talk about that. But other than that, it rains on my hill all the time when it doesn't rain elsewhere.
Okay. Now, you say that on that occasion you saw some steam rising from the point that you marked on the exhibit that Mr. Reid asked you to create, which I think was MB2. Could we bring that up, please, again, Mr. Temponi? Now, you've indicated with the X on that photograph, Ms. Barrett, that the location from which you saw steam coming, if I understand you correctly, was fairly high up within the protruding wood part of the stump. Is that right?
As I said, I was totally on a different angle, so that's all I could see explain to where. That is not the exact point, but from the angle that I was on, all I saw was a slight little wisp that you'd have to blink twice and you'd miss it.
Okay. Well,
So I can't give you any more than that.
let's change the angle a little bit then. Ms. Barrett, could the operator please bring up court book document 101? And within that one, could we go to photograph 0004. And so is that a better indication of the angle as you recall it when you saw the wisp of steam?
I wasn't even that close. I was way back over at the deck, so it was sort of, yeah, it's just very hard to explain.
That's all right. I don't want to be unfair to you, Ms. Barrett.
No, that's right, and I'm just trying to find, it's difficult to explain from pictures.
Let's try and get a photograph that might be a bit more like what you see from your back deck. Can we go to 0005?
I wasn't actually on the deck, I was on the ground,
Okay.
but I was near my deck because the tent was getting wet, so I needed to,
All right.
yep.
Okay, can we see photograph 0001 in this document? So is that a bit better?
So probably where you see that little yellow number there, probably a bit forward further than that. I thought I saw a little bit of, as I said, it was a blink of the eye and it wasn't there anymore, so I can't really tell you any more than that.
Okay, so again, perhaps we'll just get Mr. Temponi to take a screenshot of the image as it now appears on screen.
Yep.
And you understand the process that we now follow for the purpose of drawing.
Yep.
Ms. Barrett, could you ask Mr. Temponi or direct Mr. Temponi?
Go back down, go across a little bit,
Which way?
go
Left
up a little bit.
Left or right?
Well, I'm telling him, he's doing the right thing.
Okay.
Go down, go the side, sort of around that. I just saw a little bit of sort of steam there, so it wasn't up high, it wasn't down low. It was just, I just saw a little bit of what I thought was steam, that's all.
And I take it from that angle, perhaps could you just put the X there, please, Mr. Temponi?
So was that in that vicinity, that area? I can't pinpoint it, as I told you, because it just grabbed what I thought grabbed my eye, and then it wasn't there in that second, so...
Okay, now could we go back?
I can't get to, because I can't pinpoint exactly where I saw that little bit of steam.
No, I understand, and I appreciate it's a long
I was just
time.
being honest in saying that I thought I saw it. Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Barrett. Can we now please just go back to, sorry, I tend to that photograph, Your Honour. Can we go back to the photograph that was marked as MB2? And maybe can we display that one and this one side by side on screen? Now just once we've got the...
Yeah, I suppose it comes over a little bit, but as I said, it was just, I just saw this little thing. It's minute. I couldn't even, I can't say where it was more closer to the house, that vicinity.
All right.
There from that angle. I can't give you any more than that.
And looking at the photograph on the right there, we see that the wood rises out from the ground a bit.
Mm-hmm.
And comparing it then to the photograph on the left, is it, to the best of your recollection, the case that there was a protruding piece of wood effectively between you and what we might call the soil on the inside of the pit, and the steam you saw was rising from behind that piece of wood that was blocking your view slightly?
No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying it was so quick and so that I'm just saying, I can't give you any more than saying it was in that little area, because I think the darkness of the wood, it might have caught my eye a little bit, but other than that, I can't tell you. It was a blink of an eye.
All right, thank you.
But from the left-hand picture, that would have been the angle, but I was actually back a bit further than that. I'm standing right at the deck, so, but that was the angle I was looking at.
All right, thank you. Now, Ms. Barrett, you also, for the purpose of preparing to give your evidence today, gave a statement to the solicitors who'd been engaged by your insurance company. Is that right?
Yes.
Right. And again, when you were giving that statement to the solicitors, you were careful to try and recall these events to the best of your ability.
Yeah, 100 things happen. Yep. Thousands and hundreds of things happen, so yeah, to the best of my ability.
Yep. Okay.
Yep.
Now, could I ask the operator please to bring up document 28. And could we go please to court book page 0212 and down to paragraph 30 and display from there to paragraph 35. Now, could I just ask you to glance over those paragraphs, please, Ms. Barrett? And please let me know when you're ready. Now, Ms. Barrett, I do note that in that statement that you gave to your solicitors, again, there's no reference there to having seen the steam on the 29th of December, is there?
That's right, because I did obviously. Some point, yeah, I'm 32 there. At some point I was in my, which I said Land Rover, but I thought I was going, but I wasn't. I was actually on foot. There was a lot.
Okay, I appreciate that there was an awful lot going on.
That's right, there was.
Back in 2013, but when you were giving your instructions to the solicitors for the purpose of preparing this statement, you were able to take your time, weren't you?
Yes, but I had I thought I had changed that, but...
Right. And were you asked to read the statement before you signed it?
Yes, I had. I can't remember signing it, but that would be correct, because it was just very confusing trying to place different parts that you're at and where you're at, and standing and looking at certain things. You think you're sitting in the car height, but you realise you're actually at that height, so standing height.
Yes, now could I don't want to mislead you, Ms Barrett, could we go to page 0214? And at the bottom of the page, there's a signature, but I'm not quite sure, Ms Barrett, whether that's yours or somebody else's. Do you know? Oh, I'm sorry.
That's not my signature.
I'm told it's my Leonard Friends Junior, Mr Brewer. So, nonetheless, Ms Barrett, before I take it you read this and you confirmed to the lawyers that you were happy that it was accurate before you authorised them to put it in as the outline of the evidence.
Yeah, that would have been correct.
To give. Right, and you were able to take time to consider it before you were asked to give your confirmation that it was accurate?
I would have been given time.
Right, and having been given the opportunity to take your time with it, it was not your recollection at the time that you prepared this statement that the steam that you saw, that you've referred to in your evidence this afternoon, was something that you saw on the 29th of December, was it?
It was on the 29th of December. It was that morning after, and it was just where I couldn't recollect whether I was in the car or on foot, standing near the deck, but I know that that was on the 29th is when it had rained at my place, and that morning, because Hamish came back to grab and pull the tent down because he also knew the clouds were coming over, and I actually got told off for not pulling it down earlier because it actually got damp.
Right, and you've been quite specific in this statement.
I am, because I know what I saw that 29th, the morning after,
right,
of the campfire that we had that following night.
Ms Barrett, I was going to say you've been quite specific in paragraph 32 of this statement that you were in your Land Rover when you saw it.
Well, in the end, whether I was in my Land Rover on foot, I was still in the same position, and I saw what I saw. And it was the slightest little wisp, and I was only being honest that I said that I saw that, and there was, in a blink of an eye, I never saw it again. I even went over to that site, nothing.
All right, can we go back to document 72, please, Mr Tempani, and back to that page 0008. And I need to put it to you, Ms Barrett, that the first rainfall that was recorded for at least these three weather stations that generally close to the Fawcett area. The first
No, as I was saying, this is not Fawcett, this is not on my property, and this is not where it rains. If you can bring up Fawcett for me and my actual area where I live, then we can talk and discuss about what rains and what doesn't.
You didn't wait for the end of the question, and
sorry,
that's what you should do. Wait till the end of the question.
I do apologise, Your Honour.
Question.
Now, Ms Barrett, I was just going to put to you that the first rainfall events that were recorded for the area were not until the 1st of January, and I put it to you that you're mistaken as to your recollection of the 29th.
I object to that. That's inviting the witness to comment on a document, Your Honour. It's put that the first rainfall recorded is for the first, not that it happened, that it's recorded.
No, it's not. It's showing the witness a document and putting the proposition. And as part of Mr Armstrong's footage obligations, I would have thought.
Please.
So, Ms Barrett, can I get to the bottom line again? I need to put to you that the first rainfall at the property after the 28th of December was not until the 1st of January.
No, I put that to you wrongly, that on my property, it can actually rain where it doesn't rain elsewhere. I'm high above sea level, I'm up amongst the clouds, and I often get showers, and even my neighbours don't get them, or I drive down to the bottom of the hill at the end to the Arthur Highway, and it's dry there, but yet it's spitting up at home. So I know what was on my property, I know my weather, I live there, have done for a long time, and just because it's raining down in Sorrel or elsewhere, or it's not, doesn't mean it's the same up at my property. So I know 100% that it spat, rained, it drizzled that morning of the 29th.
All right. Now, could we go back to your statement to the solicitors in paragraph 32 again? You say at the end of the paragraph 32, Ms. Barrett, that you were not concerned about what you'd seen by way of the steam, the wisp of steam. I take it that's accurate?
That's correct.
And given that you were not concerned about it, I take it as well that you didn't do anything in response to that observation.
Yes, I go and observe things. So in the end, it was in the blink of an eye. There was nothing there. Who knows whether I saw it or I didn't, but I'm just being honest saying I thought I saw a little bit of steam. In the end, I went up there was nothing else, blink of an eye, it was gone.
Well, Ms. Barrett, you say you weren't concerned about it. Again, I need to put it to you that because you were not concerned about it, you didn't do anything. You didn't go over to the stump and you didn't check to see what might be causing steam to come off it.
I did go over to the stump just like I go over to all of the things that are on my property that I've been doing, and I checked it, and if I would have continually seen steam coming out of that, I then would have gone and got water and put on there, but from the look of it, it was damp.
Right. So again,
it was damp like it was from the night before.
And I think you've already said that you looked at it and then not seeing any further signs of steam, you went away again.
I looked at it, I knew it was wet, I stood there, it smelt wet, there was nothing, no fire, no flame, no redness, no nothing. It was wet and it was out.
All right.
And then I even questioned myself whether I saw that bit of stream.
All right. Now, Ms. Barrett, I think we heard you tell the police that even back in January 2013, you did not have a good memory of what you'd done in terms of the timing or handling of the campfire. Would that be accurate?
Can you repeat that question, please? I didn't understand what you were saying.
Even back in January 2013, you told the police that you did not have a good memory of what you had done in respect of the campfire.
Now, January is a long month. What particular date did I say that to the police?
The 5th of January.
That's the 5th of January. I was quite in shock. I'd gone through a lot myself, and I was trying to remember everything with the 100 million questions that were being thrown at me, to the best of my recollection at the time.
Right. And do you remember the police came out to your property on the 7th of January and made a video, and you
yes.
videoed standing near the stump, for instance?
Well, that was, I was told by the police I wasn't allowed to have my phones back until I actually, till I did that walkthrough with them. I refused to do that walkthrough with them because it was pretty horrific for me also, and they had taken our phones for days, so family and friends did not know whether I was alive or dead, or whether Hamish and his son. We were told that I had to do a walkthrough. I wasn't comfortable doing a walkthrough unless I had professional fire people there. And in the end, I was told that if I wanted my phones back, then I was to do the walkthrough video. So I just wanted to get it out of the way, and I did that walkthrough video with the police.
And again, Ms. Barrett, when you were doing the walkthrough video with the police on the 7th of January 2013, you were still trying to be as accurate as possible.
As best as I could, to the best of my knowledge.
Perhaps it might be a little quicker if you let me finish the question. And
sorry, I apologise.
You were trying to be as accurate as possible in response to the police officers' questions.
That's correct.
And do you recall telling the police on the 7th of January that the campfire had been 2 to 3 weeks beforehand?
That's what I thought it had.
Right. So would you agree with me that as at the 7th of January, you did not have a good recollection of, for starters, the timing of the campfire?
I had to remember a lot of things, and at that time I couldn't remember. It was a week before or 2 weeks prior to the January fires.
Do you recall telling the police that it was 2 to 3 weeks before?
I might have done that, because at that time, that's what my mind was on other things at that particular time. My property was still on fire.
Okay. Now, you have given some evidence this afternoon about what happened on the afternoon of the 3rd of January after you first observed the flames across to the east of the house on the property. Could I ask the operator to bring up back in document 101, photograph number 1. Now, would you agree, Ms. Barrett, that this is roughly the view that you have or had at the time from the front deck of your residence?
That's correct, yep.
All right. And now, by reference to this photograph, firstly, you can obviously see some pink police or some pink tape bounding off an area. And if we could zoom in so that we've got the photograph really from end to end of the pink tape. And you can probably make out on the ground, Ms. Barrett, there's under the near piece of tape, or partly obstructed by the near piece of tape, can you see a line of pink chalk or spray paint on the ground?
That's correct.
And then on the photo it's a little bit hard to tell, but it seems to be roughly under the far
That's correct.
fence of pink tape, there's another pink line.
That's correct.
Yep. And then it's a little hard to tell again in this photograph, but there's a green arrow between those two pink lines on the ground. Do you see that?
That's correct.
Now, when you first saw, can we zoom back out in this photograph? You've referred in your interview with the police and in your outline of evidence for these proceedings that when you first saw the fire, it was about 5 meters, it was a wall of low pale flame, about 5 meters long, and it was 5 meters long on either side of the driveway. Could you indicate, by reference to this photograph, where the driveway is that you're referring to?
The driveway is the one on the left.
Right, thank you. Now, is that the driveway that you sometimes refer to as the flat driveway or the gentle driveway?
That's a flat driveway.
Right. Could we mark that with the letter A, please, Mr. Tamponi? And have I put your evidence accurately, Ms. Barrett, that it was a low wall of flame about 5 meters wide and on either side of point A, or the driveway that's indicated by A?
If you can see where you've got that driveway there, and if you go across to your right-hand side, there's another driveway.
Yes.
Which is the other driveway. So it was between points A and B.
Right.
And I can, once he's put the B there, if you want to put the B on that driveway.
So do you have a nickname for that driveway?
No, I never really talk about it much.
Right.
I've got the steep driveway, which is on the left-hand side of the A. If you could get your little cursor thing, please. Can you go back a bit further?
Perhaps, can I help you out a bit further, Ms. Barrett? Can we go to...
No, do you mind if I just finish?
Sure.
So if you want an explanation. Can you put the A and B back there, please, the way you had it? If you can get the cursor, say where that bit of green is, if you want to go back a bit further, outside of that pink, heading towards Yep, keep on going back. Yep, there. So if you come down a bit, so initially in that area from my deck is where I first saw a bright light.
Right.
Where that cursor is there, my property then goes down the hill.
Okay.
So you actually can't see, you can't see down the hill there. And when I was saying, when I finally got down, there was just, that's where it was coming up the hill.
Okay. So can you just help us out here? Perhaps we can mark that location as C. And at C, Ms. Barrett, are you effectively referring to the area of ground at the base of the tree that the C is being written over?
Around that area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, when you first saw the wall of flames...
well, I saw the spark first.
Right.
I saw the spark. I saw a bright light.
Right.
And then the more I looked, I saw dancing white flames
Now,
coming up the hill.
now, you've just referred to a spark or a bright light. Ms. Barrett, you're not suggesting, are you, that you saw a spark that itself started a fire, are you?
No, I didn't mean that at all. As I said earlier it was like a white bit of like sun on glass or sun on a piece of metal. It was quite a... it was like a little flame light. Well, it was just bright, and that's what grabbed my attention.
Okay.
But there was nothing much else happening until it started to come up.
All right.
Because
Now,
I knew that I had a chance, because it wasn't on top of my hill, that I had a chance to deal with this.
okay. Now, we've heard in the police interview, Ms. Barrett, that you referred to the fire being a low wall of flames about 5 metres wide on either side of a driveway. Now, firstly, is that a fair summary of your recollection of what you saw in the first seconds of observing what was going on over in the area shown in this photograph?
I knew that it was between what I could see from the position that I was, is I could see fire coming up in that particular area around near that sea, which was
Can I just
where it's a triangle, so it's both sides of a driveway.
All right.
As in-
Can I just pause you? I'm going to ask you about the direction that the fire was moving in a moment, but when you first saw it, can you...
I saw a flicker down there where around that area. It had just reached, obviously, that peak of the hill.
Okay. Now, do you recall telling the police that you saw a low wall of flame about 5 metres wide? 5 metres long?
It probably, I would have, if that's what I said to the police, that's what I said, because I remember everything happened so quickly, and I jumped on the ground and just ran.
Okay. Now,
And actually from up on the deck, when I saw that, and when I looked a second time from the deck, I could just see down where a driveway is, you can just see a tiny little bit of land there. That was on fire too.
okay. So, can you help me out here,
Which
Ms. Barrett?
was on the other side.
I'm going to ask Mr. Temponi to put the cursor at the top of the letter A.
Mm-hmm.
And now, if you can do this in a bright green line or something, please, Mr. Temponi, or yellow, some other colour. Yellow, that'll be fine. Now, from the top of the A, can you, Mr. Temponi, please?
Well, it's not from the top of the A, because that's still the top of my land. If you notice right down, if you want to bring it over to the right,
Okay.
keep on going. And you can just sort of see my land. Yep, go back. It's a bit hard because it's black there, so it's a bit hard to... but I could just see it flickering. That little part of the land right down there, I could see that there was something dancing around it, that it was also on fire. So that's when I say the fire was everywhere.
All right, so can we mark that location, Mr. Temponi, as D? And for the record,
Not actually on the hill here, you've got it on the driveway, the top of the part of that A driveway, which it's not. It's down over the embankment.
to be clear, Ms Barrett, no, the D can stay, Mr Tempane.
Yep.
But the D is indicating effectively the black line that you can see between the visible part of your A driveway and what I take is the driveway going up to 244 White Hills Road. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Now, I'm next going to ask you to identify the position of the wall of flames that you referred to in your interview with the police. And would I be right in thinking that the 5 metre wall of flames that you saw at least to the right of the letter A extended from about the letter A across to about the letter B? Would that be right, or is that too far or too short?
Look, I'm not that good with measurements. I've got a ruler with me, so I was just trying to get them to say there was a wall of fire coming up, and that particular between A and B, those 2 driveways meet. So it's actually a point, and then it's all dirt driveway. So the fire was in there coming towards me.
All right. Now, what you could see...
Moving pretty fast, so it's a bit hard to say something was a bit stagnant.
Yep, okay. Well, we'll come to the direction and the speed of movement in a moment, Ms Barrett. I'm actually just trying to work out where this 5 metre wall of flames was. Between which 2 points on this photograph would you say you first saw the wall of flames?
It was between A and B. There was some over the other side, a little bit of B. It was just walls of flame. It was. I wouldn't say walls because in the end, it was tiny little sporadic flames coming everywhere up towards.
All right. So
if it looks like 5 metres across there, maybe it was. But between those 2 driveways, where it actually the 2 driveways hit the peak there, that's all I could see at the time. Right. Because when you're in different positions on the ground, it's everywhere. So that I'm only recollecting what I thought I could see at that time, or that second that I was in that position.
Okay, so if I understand your evidence correctly, Ms Barrett, what you saw was the wall of flames between driveway A and driveway B, and then some more flames over to the right of driveway B. Is that right?
The bottom.
When you say the...
Oh, sorry, I thought we were going to A. Yeah, I knew there was a bit burning there, but I was focused on what was coming towards the house and what was going around to my door.
Ms Barrett, please just bear with me. I'm just trying to work out where the fire was when you first saw it.
That's where it was when I first, that split second, saw it.
Okay, I just need to be clear about where there was.
Yep.
So I take it that the wall of flames was between driveway A and driveway B, and then some more flames over to the right of driveway B.
Slightly... I didn't pay much attention to that area. Actually, I can't no, I'll say I can't be 100% sure on that side. I just knew there was fire there. I was just too busy focusing on between A and B. Okay,
all right. And just to be clear, when you said to the police that there was fire on the other side of the driveway...
That's correct, at the A driveway.
So was there fire to the left of A as well?
That's correct.
So there was, when you first saw the low wall of flames...
Well, I told you where the D is.
Yes.
So down there, because until I actually walk...
You're still not waiting for Mr. Armstrong.
Oh, sorry, I do apologise.
So when you say that the fire was to the left of driveway A, you mean that you could see it in that black strip of ground that's visible between the visible end of driveway A where it starts to drop down a rise and the pale ground in the background, which is the driveway to 244.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. That was in that split second. That's what my eyes caught and grabbed.
Right. Now, in terms of the direction of movement of the fire, you observed that it was both moving away from you and also creeping back towards you, wasn't it?
No, I didn't say it was moving away from me. It was fanning around the hill. It was fanning around between point A and point... It depends on what position I was.
Okay.
Where am I on the ground now?
Well, let's just stick with this photograph for the moment. When you were... if you can describe what you saw by reference to this perspective, firstly, did you observe some fire creeping towards you? Or
Correct.
Coming back towards you? Thank you. Now, did you also observe fire moving in the other direction away from you?
No.
Okay. Now, do you remember telling the police?
Oh, can I correct that? The fire was sporadically going wherever it wanted to, so I only saw what I was concentrating on.
Okay.
So what was happening elsewhere around me, I don't know.
Right. Now, you referred in your interviews with the police, Ms. Barrett, to the winds being gale force or like a freight train at this time. Do you recall that?
Yes, it was shockingly windy up there.
Yep. And standing from this position, looking towards the east, would you agree that the wind was coming either from behind you or from over your left shoulder? It was coming
Doing
from
both.
the west or northwest? And
I had
veering
the westerlies hitting the easterlies. In the centre, I just have them clashing, so I have wind going all over the place.
Okay. All right.
And that's what it was that day.
Now, Ms. Barrett, I put it to you, and again, please just correct me if I'm wrong, or if you don't recall, please say so, that what you indicated to the police was that you observed a low wall of flame moving back towards the position from which this photograph was taken, and you also indicated to the police that you saw the fire running away in the far direction, so heading away from the location from which this photograph was taken.
That's what I said, it was running everywhere, but I'm saying it was running everywhere. So if it was going, it's dancing everywhere.
Okay.
And when I'm saying if it got down into the lower lines where there's no breeze, then it goes the other way. I mean, I can't.
I'm just asking you to describe what you saw, Ms. Barrett. Now, the near pink line that's been drawn on the ground under that pink tape, I put it to you, Ms. Barrett, that was the near edge of the fire when you saw it, and the far pink line on the ground was your best estimate of the far edge of the fire when you first saw fire in that area.
That's what I recollect at the time.
Thank you. Now, you've explained that you then made the 000 calls, raced around with a bucket and a watering can, trying to put out the fire. And you also said in answer to the, you said at the police interview that although you had a hose there, the hose wouldn't reach to the far side of the driveway. Now, firstly, do you recall whether you used a hose at all in your first?
No, because I knew that split second my hose wouldn't reach way down that hill.
Okay. Now, again, I'm trying to be clear about your evidence, Ms. Barrett. When you say way down the hill, do you mean down the hill that's now indicated by location D?
Actually, C.
Right. So it wouldn't reach across to the trees that are indicated by C. It certainly wouldn't reach down to the area indicated by D. What about the far side of the driveway B?
No.
Okay. And can we now go, still within document 101, to photograph 63? And now, Ms. Barrett, you recognise this is an aerial photograph of your property?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yep, thank you. And You've already identified for His Honour driveway B. We see that as the left vehicle tracks slightly to the, sorry, the vehicle tracks that appear slightly to the right of the line of your house, correct?
Can you repeat that, please?
So the driveway that we previously marked as B is the driveway that's to the right of the area bounded off by the pink tape. Do you see
That's
that?
correct, the furthest one away.
And we
yeah.
see driveway A, and then there's another driveway on the far left that curves around and goes down the hill, and that's what you call your steep driveway, correct?
That's correct.
All right. Now, at the time when you first encountered the first of the fire trucks to arrive at your property, it was at the bottom of the steep driveway, wasn't it?
That's correct.
Right. And so in the time, the minutes from when you first saw the fire until the first fire truck arrived, could you explain to His Honour what fire activity was going on down along that steep driveway?
The fire from, we're saying A driveway. So between A driveway and the steep driveway.
Could I pause you again, and perhaps Mr. Timponi might take a screenshot and we'll draw on this one.
Sorry, Your Honour, is this photo taken?
Oh, yeah, well, I will tender it, so perhaps if you could mark it before we close it.
Thank you.
All right, now, by reference to, you see driveway, the steep driveway there, we'll call that drive location E. And is that the black spot in the middle of that paddock, Ms. Barrett?
Trampoline.
It's a trampoline, is it? Okay, so could you explain to His Honour what the fire activity was in the area of that driveway E?
It was all about to cross driveway E into my horse's paddock. It doesn't show the full extent of my driveway there.
No, I don't think we have a photograph that shows the full extent of the driveway, Ms. Barrett, but I take it that it had run down the hill between E and the left-hand edge.
No, it hadn't run down the hill. It had come around the hill from the east to the west.
Okay, so if we could put the cursor to the just up and to the right of the letter E, a bit further up, further into the trees. So just down a bit, please, Mr. Timponi. So are you saying, Ms. Barrett, that the fire had come from about there and around the hill, so it curved around to the left of the letter E and into the paddock?
No, it was further down the hill where it was all on fire down there, as I mentioned earlier. There was fire everywhere and it was flying everywhere, and it was flying around, coming around the hill. It even came up, as you can see, up at the top of near the E. It was burning in there, it was burning at the side, it was coming around.
So can I just pause you there then, please?
Yeah, it's
Ms.
just...
Barrett? If we start from where the cursor is and draw a line...
Right, if you go right down then to the bottom of the hill...
So go to the downward and to the left, please, Mr. Timponi. Draw a line.
No, you're
Down
not
to
getting
the left.
what I'm saying. So if you go down to the right, no, squiggle out, you're too high up.
Just with the cursor, Mr. Tempone, not with the line.
Thank you. You bring
tell-
the cursor right back to the A driveway where it starts.
The flat driveway.
That's correct.
There's no A on that photograph. Yep.
And you go right down to the bottom of it. No, you're going up it. You go right down to the bottom of it. Keep on going.
A bit faster, please, Mr. Tempone.
Thank you. Right, now come up, so stop, go back. Right, if you want to come across to your left.
Now, is this where we'd start drawing a line?
No, you need to go slightly up towards the neighbours a little bit more. I'm just trying to work out where my property is in amongst those trees. So all of that was already on fire, and I had to keep on watching it as it was burning around. If you want to bring the cursor, please, from where you are. So it's not just that little spot there that was on fire. The whole of that area was on fire.
So can we circle the whole of that
Thank you.
area, please, Mr. Tempone? So all of those.
So go there, go all the way, go down, stop there, because can you squiggle out that line? Wasn't a line like that. No. Sorry, this is really hard. If you want to go back to where you were a bit further down and over.
Over to the left, please, Mr. Tempone.
And up a bit, right? So that whole area between where you see a driveway and then you see a band further up that goes up to my neighbour's driveway, I'm just trying to say that all of that in there leading to coming towards, if you want to put your dot there where it is and then drag it straight, we'll bring it on an angle.
So down to the left?
That's correct. So go back to where you were. Yep. Not too far in. Yeah, and it's very hard like this. All of that area was on fire.
All right. So.
And it was fanning, the word fanning. So by the time I got to Doug, it was already more than halfway around that bend, if that makes sense.
Is that the bend that E is on at the moment?
So if he wants to keep on going sort of straight ahead, keep on going, yep, that's right, just keep on going, keep on going, keep on going. So stop there. And if you want to go back to where you actually started that point and come straight down towards, yep. So it was all through, yep, and go, stop there. So if you can imagine, it was all in that area there, if you can see right, actually even further up to, that cursor needs to, the one that you went down that way, that needs to be pushed out a bit more. It's just trying to see between the trees. But in the end, that was all burning and halfway around when I had to leave what I was doing and go on.
All right, can we just indicate those lines with letter F, please, Mr. Tempone?
Well, it was, I'm not just saying it was between those lines, it was all that area there. So whether you can do a big circle around that whole area.
Let's do that, Mr. Tempone.
Thank you. Because we're just talking about that area at the moment, so...
And so you were fighting a fire in that area, Ms. Barrett?
No, I wasn't, because it was already on fire. So I couldn't go down there, it was already burning.
Right.
So I concentrated on what was coming up onto the top of my property and what was going around to Doug's paddock.
Okay, and so where was the fire starting to go around into Doug's paddock?
It was
From that circle?
It was already travelling that way.
So it was moving from that circle F towards...
Well, I was watching it as I was trying to watch where it was going elsewhere too. So I was keeping I'm trying to, because I knew I had a time, I was just trying to do two things at once. Look after the house and look after my horse.
Yep, okay. And then when the first...
So I was never down in that I was never down in there. That was already on fire.
Okay. And when the first fire truck arrived, you went to meet it at the bottom of driveway E, correct?
Yes. I was probably down really where the end of that photo finishes. Could have been, I was down a bit, probably further. Yeah, I was down further than that.
All right. Could we go...
Because you see where that dry bit is there, that was more burnt down further.
do you mean the black scorching to the right of the trampoline? Or which dry bit did you...
Across the other side of the driveway.
Yes, there.
Where the cursor is?
Yes, I was down further than that.
Yep, okay, thank you.
It was burnt down in there.
All right, I think we have actually got a photograph that comes close to the whole of that driveway, so if you can just save that one for the moment, Mr. Temponi. And could we go back to the thumbnails once you've saved it? And can we go down to what I think is photograph 66? And can we zoom into the bottom left-hand quarter of that photograph? Now, is that pretty much capturing the bottom of the steep driveway?
Oh, yes, yep, yep.
Okay, and so it was at the bottom of that driveway that you met the first fire truck that arrived, is that right?
That's correct.
Now, His Honour's heard evidence from a couple of the crew members who were in that fire truck, Ms Barrett, that when you ran down to them, you expressed concern about the fire heading towards your neighbour's property. Do you remember that?
Yes, I do.
And a couple of the crew members also said that you referred to the fact that you'd had a campfire up next to in the direction of the residence a few days before the fire. Do you remember telling the fireys that?
The ones first on call?
Yes.
No.
Okay.
Not down at the bottom of my driveway, no. I was told them to go straight up the road. There was very few words.
Okay, there's, as I say, Ms Barrett, His Honour's heard from all three of the members of that crew that you referred firstly to concern about the fire heading towards the neighbours, and secondly you referred to the campfire that you'd had a few days beforehand. Do you have any recollection of that? Or?
Not at all. I do about my neighbours, the first instance that you said. I did tell them because I saw the black smoke up at their place. I knew that the fire I heard, that was the freight train noises I heard, and I knew that there was an elderly lady on her own up there. They had 9 dogs, and my property is cleared where theirs wasn't, and I was frightened that she may have lost her life.
Now, Ms Barrett, would you agree that it is possible that you mentioned to the members of the first fire crew who arrived that you spoke to at the bottom of the steep driveway that the fire had been started by, that you thought the fire had something to do with the campfire that you'd had a few days beforehand?
No.
Okay, so your evidence is that it's not possible that you said that?
I don't remember saying that at all.
Okay.
Well, is it that you don't remember?
I don't remember, sorry. I don't remember saying that.
Is it that you don't remember or that you deny it?
I deny it, rather than I don't remember. I just remember screaming at them.
Appreciate the difference.
I deny it because I just remember screaming at them to go up the road.
Okay. All right. Now, you said in your evidence earlier this afternoon that after you'd spoken to the first fire brigade crew to arrive, you then started to walk back up the hill, and as you were walking up the hill, Hamish arrived. Have I understood your evidence correctly?
I remember seeing a red fire truck come up the flatter driveway, which I think was our driveway A, and at the same time, I can recollect Hamish's car zooming up behind me. I think he came up the steep driveway. I remember him parking over near the power pole, where Doug is in that picture. And as the fire truck pulled in beside my house on the east side, Hamish and the kids had got out and were running over as I was coming up the hill.
Okay, now can I put this sequence of events to you, Ms. Barrett, and then ask you to say whether it accords with your recollection or not. The first thing in this sequence is that you spoke to the first fire brigade crew to arrive and you sent them up to the neighbour's house. The discussion that we had a moment ago.
That's correct.
And then I put it to you that you spent a number of further minutes at the property on your own, running back and forth between the various spots that were on fire and the house while you got water and tried to stop the fire from getting towards Doug's paddock. And you did that for a number of further minutes still on your own. Do you understand?
What, when that first fire brigade turned up?
After the first fire brigade had gone off to 244 Whitehills Road.
No, I was exhausted. I dropped my watering can and I went to then go back up the road to get more water.
And the third thing that happened, Ms. Barrett, was that a second volunteer fire brigade arrived, and this crew didn't speak to you, they just continued straight up to 244 Whitehills Road. Do you remember seeing another fire truck go straight past toward 244?
No, I don't.
Okay. And then sometime shortly after that second crew had passed by, Mr. Robinson came home with the two boys.
That must have been when I was walking back up the hill.
Thank you. And then after Mr. Robinson arrived, a third fire truck attended. This one was from 7 Mile Beach. And it was the members of that third fire truck, the crew of that third fire truck that you spoke to near the house. Now, does that align with your memory?
I remember when I walked up the hill, I spoke to a gentleman at the fire truck.
A gentleman with a red beard?
That's correct.
Do you remember whether his name was Butler or Tony or Anthony?
I can't comment on names. There was a lot going on.
Right, okay. But I put it to you, Ms. Barrett, that between the crew that you spoke to up near the house, you recall was a different crew from the one that you spoke to at the bottom of the steep driveway.
I think so. I just suppose you wasn't paying attention at that time. There were other things going on.
Okay.
I think they were different. It wasn't. No red-bearded guy spoke to me outside that first
Right. Thank you. Now, when the
fire truck.
when the third crew arrived with the nice gentleman with the red beard, do you recall whether by that time there were already helicopters starting to do water bombing in the gully to the south of your house?
Not that I can remember.
Okay. And when that the crew with the gentleman with the red beard arrived, that crew was not actively engaged in fighting the fire because your house was not under threat at that stage, and the water bombers were on site doing their drops in the gully behind the property. Do you recall?
No, the water bombers were not there for a while after.
Okay. And when you were...
So can you read, because you had a few questions in one then.
It was
so
a double-barrelled question.
I'm sorry.
Part of it was whether they were actively engaged in firefighting. The other part was whether the water bombers were there.
Thank you, and I apologise, Ms. Barrett. So when that crew with the red-bearded gentleman arrived, that crew was not actively engaged in fighting any fire around your property, were they?
Yes, they were. When I walked up and was getting to the peak of the hill, and I saw the red truck there, and I saw someone get out with a hose.
And that fire truck, Ms. Barrett, could you tell His Honour by reference to this photograph whereabouts on the property it parked?
Yes. If you want to come way over to the right. Keep on coming, keep on coming, keep on
Right at the
coming.
back of the house.
Yep, there. There. So they parked around there. I had fire trucks parked there from 1 to 3 at times, parked there. From there through to the side of my house,
All right.
on the east side there. When I walked up the hill, I remember I was hysterical because I didn't know what was going on, and I do remember Hamish saying, calm down, it's all over. And even I remember the red bearded man said, no, it's not, it's all in the back gully. Fire's all in the back gully, so I tell you, get those kids out of here now.
Okay. Now, just for the record, you've indicated that the truck that the red bearded man was in had parked roughly between the eastern end of your house and the pit, correct?
Well, where the arrow is at the moment.
Would you agree that that's roughly between the house and the pit?
Yep.
And can you see over to the right of the cursor on the screen, the grey line? That's the big log that's a bit of a garden feature at that part of the property, isn't it?
Oh yes, my big log.
Yep.
It's up in the, if you want to take the cursor over. Yep, that's it.
Thank you. And the area around the big log was not burning and had not been burnt at that point, had it?
I was not at that area, so I couldn't tell you whether it was or not.
And
It was, sorry, go on.
no, sorry, please finish the answer.
I know it was speckled through there, but I couldn't tell you. I just know that there was all fire in amongst that gum trees there that they were dealing with. I was too busy concentrating on mine.
And when you say amongst the gum trees, do you mean the gum trees that we can see further to the southeast of the property? Or
That's correct.
right. And no fire yet in the area immediately to the right, that is due south of the big log, was there?
And I'll go for that one again. I got told by the fireys it was burning in there, then that's all I can tell you.
Right. And by in there...
And because of, if you can see, my septic there's a big dry dirt area, and they said they were going to try and stop from burning my septic.
Right.
So I didn't burn my septic.
Okay. And
But it was all in...
so the fire was over further to the southeast and south of the septic area, is that right?
That's correct.
Thank you. Now,
As I was told by the fireys, and then later on I saw, yes, it was all there. So in the end, I'm not an expert. There's a lot of bush. It's hard to see through thick scrub, but I knew there were fires through there.
and that area around the big log, in fact, did end up getting burned, but it wasn't until much later in the night of the 3rd of January. Is that right?
It's speckled through there because there you've got the log, then you've got an area of just a little bit that was bush originally, and then you've got the big septic that was, and I knew the septic was clear. Between the log and the septic in that strip there, it was from the January right through. It could have happened at any of those times. From the 3rd of January till the fire investigation was on the Sunday. So from the Thursday to the Sunday, my property just kept on burning over itself. So it's best to my knowledge.
And so, to the best of your knowledge, that area to the right of the big log in the photograph ended up burning much later, either in the evening or the night of the 3rd of January, or perhaps into sometime on the 4th of January. Is that right?
As I said, I wasn't overly in that area. That was the fire. All the fire trucks were there to save my septic. It was speckled a bit through there, and that's all I can really tell you. So, and then it just, over the days, more and more got burnt and burnt and burnt. So, only, you know, I'm not a fire person. But fire was everywhere.
Do you remember going out to the fireys, including the man with the red beard, and offering them a drink of water and something to eat?
At the time, I think the power had gone off. I didn't have any food in the house. I only had a banana and a tin of biscuits. They were with me on the property for most of the day, all the fireys. I had them there constantly. I think I did offer them a drink. I think Hamish came back with water because we had no water in the house. So yes, we offered them some water and a banana and bickies.
And you then went for a little walk around the area between the house and the pit and the septic system with the man with the red beard, didn't you?
I don't know, we're just all standing out there. I couldn't tell you whether I went for, we were just all out there in that area.
Now, do you recall standing next to the pit, the stump, with the man with the red beard?
We were near it. Mm-hmm. I remember having lots of conversations. He was telling me about 7 Mile Beach, what they do, that sort of thing. Then it's hard to remember apart from seeing my own police interviews because a lot, as you can understand, happened. But I know I had that conversation with him, and I know that he went over and checked because we're all trying to work out where it came from, how it came about. So I was just trying to be helpful with anything that I knew or saw or heard. He mentioned about the camp, the pit, and just said, yeah, you know, campfires, I think because we were talking about, and he was talking about campfires down at 7 Mile Beach. And he went over and checked it.
Well, this is moving on to a new topic now, so it might be a convenient time to adjourn.
Thank you, Ron.
Thank you. Well then, Ms Barrett, we'll adjourn till 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. I'll see you then.
Okay, thank you.
I'll stand, please. This honourable court now stands adjourned until 10 a.m. tomorrow.